in national and international conferences. She has published the tools, namely Quality of Work-Life Teacher Scale published by Psychotronics, Teacher Empowerment Scale published by National Psychological Corporation, Agra, Teachers Work Culture Scale published by Psychotronics, and she has worked as a resource person for various refresher courses, faculty development programs conducted by HRDCs at University of Mysore and Bangalore University. She has delivered special lectures at University of Mysore, Bangalore University, Manmohan Sundaranar University. She has prepared instructional material for Karnataka State Open University. She has prepared training manuals and handbooks for Government of India and Government of Karnataka. She has prepared blended learning self-instructional material for Commonwealth London, served as member of Karnataka Textbooks Committee, DSCRT, Government of Karnataka. She is also a member of various academic bodies like Board of Examiners of Coimbatore University, Bangalore North University, Bangalore City University, Bangalore University, KSOU, and many more universities. Board of Studies of all the above mentioned universities. She is a member of Doctoral Committee of University of Mysore, Coimbatore University, Mangalore University, Karnataka State Open University, Karnataka University, Rani Channamma University, and Davangere University. She is a member of many professional organizations like Society for Educational Technology Research and Development, Bharati Dasan University, Teacher Educators, Cultural and Educational Forum, All India Association for Educational Research. So we have a person with such a great experience in teaching and research. So I think she will be able to give you a lot of information. So this session will be, I think, a worthy session. So welcome you, Professor Sheela, once again. So it's over to Professor Sheela. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Ningama.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ningama, for the elaborate introduction.
Okay, Sheela. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning to all the participants.
Good morning, madam.
Yeah, I see familiar faces also here. So good morning to all. And today I'll be handling two sessions. That is the first session now and the second session.
Morning.
The first, a slight interchange I'm making here. I think if the topics are given to you, the first session was about the connectivism theory, which is a new theory which has evolved in learning. And the second session was about self-directed learning or autonomous learning. What I thought was the sequence of the presentation, I thought it would be better if I handle the autonomous learning session in the beginning and then move over to a more generalized theory which is dependent on or which paves way for this autonomous learning for students and makes them autonomous learners. So I thought presenting the theory afterwards would be better after we know what is autonomous learning and what are the characteristics of autonomous learning and all that. So what I'll be doing is, in this session, I will be presenting about autonomous learning and how digital tools or the present technology is paving way for developing autonomy among learners. So these are the new concepts which have evolved, the terms called learner autonomy or strategies for autonomous learning. There is a model which has of teaching and learning which is being evolved. That is what is called the autonomous model of learning. Okay. So first we will begin with that. I would first like to share my presentation here in the beginning. Just tell me if the presentation is visible.
Yes, madam, it is visible, madam.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Is the slideshow visible now?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Visible, madam. Visible, madam.
Yes, madam. Visible, madam.
Now, when we speak about self-directed learning, the terminology itself tells us it's the learner who is taking charge of learning. The learner is directing his own learning. The learner is taking control of his learning. Means whatever the teacher, as teachers, we used to plan for the learner himself is taking the role of the teacher and trying to plan, trying to go through his own learning process, take the control of his own learning process. Means he's taking the responsibility of his own learning. This is what is self-directed learning. Okay, and now there is an ecosystem which is being created for this self-directed learning or autonomous learning. How is this ecosystem being developed? This ecosystem is being created because of the technological developments and the adoption of technology we are making in our education system. We know we have a wide range of tools, educational tools, as well as evaluation tools available for teachers. And then there are continuous changes and developments being made in this technology. And we teachers ourselves have to evolve ourselves, because we are teachers who have grown up in an era where our type of learning was quite different from the learning which is happening today. And then we know how much access the learners of today have to the digital tools, how much of knowledge they have about the digital tools today. By the time teachers, we learn about the digital tools, learners would have already accessed them, because some of the tools which I came to know, like Kahoot and all that, and the Quizlet and all, which we can use for evaluating students and then making evaluation more enjoyable students. When I thought of sharing it with younger generation students, school students, and many small children in our family, when I thought I have learned something new and wanted to share with them, they were already having access to it. As soon as I know something about Quizlet, we will play a quiz. Immediately, one of my niece just opened the Quizlet. She started taking the role of a quiz master. Okay, so that is the access and knowledge which present day students have. So there is an ecosystem which has already been developed for autonomous learning. So as teachers, if we have to give this autonomy to the learners, then we have to know about what is autonomous learning, what are the skills which we have to develop in students for gearing them up to this autonomous learning. Okay, so I think today with this presentation, I will just go through, concentrate more on what is autonomous learning and all the such aspects of what are the skills we as teachers should have, what is the role we as teachers have to play for autonomous learning, and then what are the skills we have to develop in children, and how much of guidance is required for the children of today, how information is to be given to the students, what is the role the students have to play if they have to actively get involved in learning in this autonomous learning ecosystem. Okay. Now, before I actually move into what is autonomous learning, I thought one aspect of history of autonomous learning I would just share, because most of us would know about this, but we will not know autonomous learning has happened here. So in practice, autonomous learning is not a new concept. It's a very old concept. It's already in practice when we take different sectors of learning, like language learning, and then when it comes to computer programming and all that, this autonomous learning has already been used and adopted very much widely. Now, there are quite a few examples when we take the developed nations. And it's not only as soon as we say technology and as soon as we say autonomy and self-directed learning, we always think that children should be very gifted and then think children should be very capable. Okay, and then we always think of only talented children when we speak about giving responsibility of their own learning. But research has already shown that even in developing countries, This autonomous learning is very widely used, but a proper structure is not being given here. There is one project. I don't know how many of you have heard about this project. The project is called the Hole in the Wall project. The name itself says it's a project which is called the Hole in the Wall. This project had been implemented by one single person in a slum area in India. Actually, it began in a slum area in Delhi. And most of you must have heard of or even watched the movie called The Slumdog Millionaire. If you have watched the movie, you would have seen how a child from a slum area goes on to become a millionaire only because of the knowledge which he had. Okay? So this movie was actually had won Oscar also. So it's an Oscar-winning movie called The Slumdog Millionaire, which was based on a novel written by an Indian diplomat who is Vikas Swaroop. He had written a novel called Q&A. If you just expand this Q&A, it is question and answer. And if you have watched Slumdog Millionaire, it is nothing but a boy from, actually an adolescent from a slum area who has grown up there and attends, what do we say, a quiz competition, and then wins the competition and goes on to become a millionaire. So this actually novel itself is inspired by this project, which was really implemented. And this was championed by Sugata Mitra. Okay, he's an Indian computer scientist and also an educational theorist. Based on this project, this novel Q&A was written by Vikas Swaroop. And this novel was later on made into a movie. So what is this Hole in the Wall project, which has made so much of name, and why I am trying to link this with autonomous learning? Now, in 1999, Mitra took up an experiment. What he did was in New Delhi, a slum area called Kalkaji slum, in a wall, he set up a computer kiosk. Okay? The children in this slum were not forced to use the computer. The computer was just kept there in a hole in the wall. And then the students or the children had free access to this computer. Okay. They themselves, this person, Sugata Mitra, didn't even teach them also as to how to use this, what do you say, computer and all that. That was also figured out by children themselves. So they themselves figured out how to surf over the web, how to search information on the internet, and then how to operate the computer for themselves. So this experiment again was repeated in many other locations. And then he saw that this gaining of knowledge by children, because he says children, we all know children are very curious. They want to know. Only thing is they should not be pestered to learn. If freedom is given to them, their natural curiosity and the urge for learning takes them towards searching for information. That is what happened. And in all the areas where he implemented and kept these computers, it became a huge success. Okay? So Mitra then named this type of education where children go to the net, search for information because of their urge to learn and because of their curiosity. He called this method called the minimally invasive education, MIE. He says it is a solution for the learning problems or learning lag which students have today. What he says is use the power of collaboration. Okay, this term collaboration was very important here, where actually in our conventional classrooms, we don't encourage collaboration. We insist more about silence in the classroom, We insist more about keeping discipline in the classroom. We insist more about the seating arrangements in the classroom, where they have to strictly adhere to the places where they have to stay in the classroom. And then the speaking of the students in the classroom is restricted. But in this minimally invasive education, he says the solution is the power of collaboration and to harness the power of natural curiosity of children, which will catalyze learning. So allow students to collaborate, allow students to decide who are experts in the particular field of knowledge which they are seeking, allow students to naturally seek for information, and then urge for curiosity could be satisfied by these children. Okay, so this is what is this minimally invasive education, and this project by Sugata Mitra was called the Hole in the Watch project, which was highly successful. So with this base of incident which really happened, which showed that autonomous learning, but he did not term this as autonomous learning. He termed it as minimally invasive learning or education. I move over to the actual topic today, which is autonomous learning. So what is autonomous learning? Autonomous learning could also be called self-directed learning. What do we mean by self-directed learning? Who directs the learning? The learner himself directs his own learning. That is what is autonomous learning. Now, this approach, which is self-directed, involves the individual student to take the authority. Okay, the teacher is not the authority here. The student himself takes the authority. He is free to make his own choices. Choices about what education he has to get. Choices about what are the developmental milestones or what are the achievements which he has to make for that particular learning experience. Means it is not the teacher who will decide on what are the goals of learning. It is the student himself who takes independence of making his own choice about what he wants to learn, how he wants to learn, why he wants to learn. Because we know as teachers, as soon as we say a lesson plan or as soon as we say about teaching, we always put 3 questions. What to teach, how to teach, when to teach, why to teach. That is what we say. Answer these questions, you have your plan of your education or teaching ready. These questions are to be answered by the learner himself. Once he knows why he has to learn, it is a self-motivation which the student would get. The teacher need not motivate. He knows why he has to learn. He knows what he has to achieve. Then it is for him to decide what content he will learn in order to achieve that. And then it is in his independence or freedom to select what method he wants to learn. Okay? So this is what is self-directed approach in autonomous learning. So this is, but the situation here has to be created by the teacher. What type of situation? A situation where learners are responsible for their own learning. So the responsibility here is taken by the learner for his own learning. In our conventional method of teaching, we know if the student does not learn anything, it is easy for the learner to put the responsibility on anything else. Put the responsibility on the teaching of the teacher or put the responsibility on the situations which he had to go through. So he has numerous of excuses which he can give for not taking responsibility for his own learning. But here in autonomous learning, the student has to take responsibility for his own or her own learning. So this autonomous learning also refers to student getting engaged in a learning environment which is not having any supervisor there in the environment. So it is independent of the instructor and it is the learner alone who is creating his learning environment. Okay, the teacher is in the background. Peer interaction and communication plays a very important role because I told you collaboration is very important here. So developing collaborative skills is important for the teacher here, for the learners. So peer interaction and communication is very important in autonomous learning. Here, when we are seeing the characteristics of autonomous learning, we can, all of us know about using e-learning or online learning or using technology in learning. So as we are going through this, let us just try to link between the characteristics of an online learning strategy and the characteristics of these autonomous learning. Now here, in autonomous learning, student will take the primary responsibility for her or his learning. When they are taking the primary responsibility, what they are doing is, they are taking responsibility of setting their goals. They are taking responsibility of deciding what is their needs. Okay? And the teacher is not deciding what are the learning goals. And they also take responsibility for self-assessment. See, when we speak about self-assessment, we know what role technology can play, what role the digital tools which are there for students today can play. So self-assessment of the learning task completed by the student is again taken up by the learner himself. This autonomous learning, it's an approach to learning where learners have the power to also regulate their learning. They have the right to control their own learning activities. Okay? We know how much power this word having a right has. Means the student has the right to decide his own learning activities, what learning experiences he has to go through. The decision taking right lies with the student himself. Now here in autonomous learning, learners are in charge of their own learning process with autonomy. Okay? Autonomy, we know, is freedom. Freedom with discipline, freedom with responsibilities. Okay? So freedom doesn't mean, autonomy doesn't mean he has the right to do everything, right to even decide upon the negative aspects also. No, but here autonomy comes with a responsibility. So it's the role of the teacher to create autonomy in students, but also together take the responsibility with this autonomy. Okay, that is what is the power of autonomous learning. And this is an individualized learning. We know there are different learning methods and then learning strategies, and this is individualized learning. It is, and we also know the characteristics of individualized learning and how individualized learning have to be planned for children. So in this individualized learning, learners assume responsibility of own learning process, and the learners here are important than. So when we think of different elements of learning, we know learner is a very important element in the learning process. So in individualized learning, learners are the important element in this autonomous learning. So who takes the initiative for learning here? The initiative for learning also is taken by the learner. Initiative, he makes his own decisions with the aim of achieving their personal goals. Okay? So what do the teachers do? The teachers are relegated to the background. They only facilitate the process. How do they facilitate? By giving advice and helping pupils only if necessary. There are pupils and learners who don't even need advice. They know how to seek information and how to seek authentic information, and then how to go about learning or gathering that information. What are the different multiple sources which they can take for information? All these students know. If the students are capable of that, have that ability, then the teachers have to really relegate themselves to the background and then need not even worry about advising or helping the students. Only if necessary, to those students, the teachers have to facilitate the learning process by just advising and helping the pupils. So in autonomous learning, learning is conducted in a self-directed and self-regulated manner. There are two things here, self-directed and self-regulated. Okay, so self-directed, we know decisions made by the student himself. Once the decisions are made about the goals, about the needs, about the learning process which he is going through, even the regulating of the learning also happens by the learner himself. How does he regulate? Regulations happens by the monitoring of the self-monitoring of the learning process. How much of the goal is achieved? What are the long-term goals? What are the short-term goals? And then whether the short-term goals are achieved in the time set up by the student. These time management skills are also very important. And then managing the time with the learning capability or the learning pace of the student, because he should not take very much of time, and then the other students who are having a fast pace may go very much forward. So this self-regulation also, the student should be able to cope up with other students. This will happen because of the collaboration with peers which is involved in autonomous learning. Here, the individuals will focus on learning and control their learning, and it is not the teacher who will control the learning. When we say that the learners are accepting the responsibility for their own learning, what they are doing is they are first recognizing their learning characteristics. We know each learner is diverse. Each learner is different, coming from different backgrounds. They have different capabilities and abilities. Their needs are different. Their motivation level is different. Their abilities are different. So each learner recognizes his own characteristics of learning, and then he chooses and uses the appropriate strategy which is suitable for his own characteristics or for his own goals. So we see how much of responsibility is lying on the part of the student. So taking charge of own learning or getting actively involved, taking individual decisions according to the decisions are taken based on the necessities or preferences focused on the goals they need to achieve. Okay. So when they are taking decisions, the decisions is with respect to what are the goals they have to achieve. So the focus here is on the goals which the students need to achieve. We always advise students to focus on the goals. Okay. So autonomous learning helps students and develops this nature in students of having a focus towards goals when they are getting involved in any activity of the learning. We all know once they get involved in searching for knowledge on the internet, how much of deviations are available. We ourselves, when we are searching for information or when we are having access on the internet, we know how much of deviations are there, how much we deviate from the actual source and then go for viewing different social media, and then there are pop-ups which come up and then deviate us from learning. Okay, but here the students have to be focused on the goals, and such deviations need to be avoided by the students because they are taking charge of their own learning. Here, the students will be active participants and they will know how to manage their learning. They will also know how to collaborate with their classmates, how to collaborate, how much to collaborate, how much to share the knowledge which they have, and then whom to seek for knowledge, and then when to have the discussions, how to have the discussions with the learners. All this is managed because of the active participation of the learner himself in his own learning. And there are two things which is very much needed in autonomous learning, that is flexibility and accessibility to the knowledge. Flexibility in learning, flexibility in choosing the sources of knowledge, flexibility in choosing the learning strategy or the learning experiences which the child has to go through. And if he has to have access to that particular learning experience, how does he get access to that learning experience? This is possible by the digital tools which are available today for us. So this flexibility and accessibility is provided by the digital tools which will allow the students to combine both their professional and personal obligations, and then which will lead them towards lifelong learning. Now, this is what is much required and this is the objective of our education today. Even our National Education Policy 2020 is emphasizing on developing lifelong learners. It is not for us to just make students gain knowledge. It's not for us just to develop different cognitive abilities in children. It is for us to help students to learn how to learn. It's not just learning knowledge. And then Alfred Teufel speaks about learning, relearning, unlearning and relearning. So something we have learned becomes obsolete, then the students should know how to unlearn it, and they have to have the capability of relearning it. So Alfred Teufel says, this is what is lifelong learning. If the students have to be lifelong learners, because we know knowledge is upgrading at a very rapid pace, and then this Generation X students or this Generation Z students have to have the capability of being lifelong learners, learning on their own. Okay, and then this is what we say, they should have the capability of learning, managing their learning, managing also how to unlearn if whatever they have learned becomes obsolete, and then relearning what is required for the present day application. And this is all possible because of the technological tools which are accessible to students today. Now, this technology helps us or students to be ubiquitous learners. What is this ubiquitous learning? Ubiquitous learning is learning, having access to learning at any time, anywhere. Okay. So just in time, whenever they feel like learning, whenever they want to learn. So just in time for the students, anytime, anywhere, knowledge should be accessible to them. So there should not be any spatial or geographical or temporal barriers in the learning for the students. So this ubiquitous learning is possible, and the facilities for ubiquitous learning is available now for the present day learner. And this is possible because of the technology which we have in our education system today. Okay? So students should be made autonomous learners, because if they are not made autonomous learners, if they do not develop the skills for autonomous learning, if they do not manage their own learning and take control and responsibility of learning, they will be falling behind in their work world or in the society later on when they grow up. So because students, we know, who have these skills of autonomous learning will be able to learn on their own, will be able to have access to ubiquitous learning whenever and wherever they want. And children who do not have these skills will be falling behind, not only in their education or learning, but later on they will be also be falling behind even in their work world also. So we have to, it is compulsory for the teachers of today, because the situation has arrived thus because of the technology we have. And then it is the prime responsibility of the teachers to create autonomous learners, and then to help students to develop their own strategies for autonomous learning today. Now, who is an autonomous learner then? We know what is autonomous learning. Then who is an autonomous learner? What are the capabilities and skills the autonomous learner have to have? Okay. So, according to Betts and Kirscher, who speaks about autonomous learning, he defines in 1999 that an autonomous learner is one who solves problems through a combination of divergent and convergent thinking. Earlier, when we spoke about thinking, we used to say there are two types of thinking, that is convergent thinking and divergent thinking. And then theories also spoke about the brain. We have a theory called the brain dominance theory. This brain dominance theory also spoke about individuals having left brain dominance, individuals having right brain dominance, and we said one dominance helps in divergent thinking, and then the other type of dominance helps in convergent thinking. But today, we are speaking of people with brains not having left dominance or right dominance brain. We are speaking of children who are able to what do we say, develop a link between the left brain and the right brain capabilities. They are the children who will excel. It's for the teachers to develop strategies. If you have seen recent researchers, even in the field of medicine, in the field of psychology, in the field of education, research on establishing the link between the left brain and the right brain. Okay, and music, learning of music has shown that there are additional nerves being developed to link the coordination between the left brain and the right brain. Okay, that level of research is happening today. And this Betts and Krisher says autonomous learners are the ones, earlier we said problem solving, solve problem either divergently or convergently. Okay, but he says the learners should be able to solve problems with a combination of divergent and convergent thinking. Means give the right answers and also think of multiple solutions to a problem. Okay, and then these autonomous learners function with minimal external guidance. Any areas of endeavor or task they take minimal external guidance. So with this minimal guidance and with the combination of the divergent and convergent thinking, just imagine the power of having a coordination and combination of divergent and convergent thinking, how able they will be to come out with the solutions to problems. So this is what is the capacity of an autonomous learner according to Betts and Krisher. An autonomous learner is the one who will take ownership for his learning process. Okay. Earlier, when we spoke about autonomous learning, we have dealt of what do we mean by taking ownership. Taking ownership here is the autonomous learner will decide everything on his own. We know what responsibility a owner has. Okay, just imagine a physical property or imagine ownership of having something. You know how much responsibility the owner will have. So the student, when he takes the ownership of his learning process, you know what responsibility he has to take. Okay, he is responsible for whether he has success in learning or whether he has failure in learning. So if he has to have success, then he should know what to plan, how to take control, how to monitor his progress. Okay, and then monitoring his progress very frequently, time to time. All this happens if he takes ownership of his own learning process. When he takes ownership, he himself will discover what are his learning needs. According to the learning needs, he will set his own learning goals. Once he has the learning goals, if he has to achieve those learning goals on his own without any external or minimal external guidance, then what are the methods which he has to devise? See, earlier, the responsibility of devising or selecting the learning strategy or the methods with which the teacher could teach lied upon the teacher. But here, the methods of learning, not only methods of teaching, here methods of learning, and even not just selecting the method of learning, devising the own methods of learning. Okay, this lies upon the learner, and monitoring and evaluating their learning process. All this responsibility lies on the owner of the learning process. And who is the owner of the learning process? It is the student who himself who is taking ownership and responsibility of setting the goals, identifies his own learning needs. Okay, if he has to learn something, why he has to learn that? That also is explained by the learner himself. And then he himself is even devising new ways of learning. Okay, and then monitoring and evaluating his progress in learning. This progress in learning can also be evaluated by the student in comparison with his classmates or peers. Okay. So when he takes ownership, he's taking full charge of his learning. This is what is done by the autonomous learner. What is the role of the teacher here then? The teacher does not have any role? Yes, the teacher has a role, but the teacher has the role of just facilitating this learning Then being a resource provider, being an expert in the field of teaching and learning, and even in the content part, and then an expert in helping students to devise their own methods. Okay, so the teacher can just guide, can be a resource provider, but not a primary driver of learning process. Earlier, when we spoke about a conventional method of teaching, it was the teacher who used to take the role of driving the whole learning process and planning the whole learning process. But here the teacher is just taking a backseat and acting as a facilitator and being a resource provider for the learner. Now we have discussed about two terms, that is, what do we say, learning autonomy, and then we have also discussed about the whole strategy of making a learner. But there is another term called the learner autonomy. What is this learner autonomy? This term actually was first coined in 1981 by Henry Holleck. Okay, he is called the father of this term learner autonomy. He defined learner autonomy as the ability of the learner to take charge of his or her own learning. So what is learning autonomy? It is an ability. Ability of whom? Ability of the student. What ability? Ability to take charge of her own learning. Okay. Earlier, this learner autonomy was initially began with the foreign language study. Means when students attempted to learn a foreign language. Okay, this learner autonomy was encouraged. Now, because of the power this learner autonomy or autonomous learners have, this has spread to other concepts of education as well. Because we know that this foreign language study earlier was hit with e-learning. There were numerous applications which many of them gained access and started learning the foreign language. So this learner autonomy is a natural fit for e-learning, where we use different technological tools for learning which are available to learn as well as evaluate ourselves. So that is how it became very popular among the other subjects also, which initially started with language, became popular with other subjects also. Now, in the broader sense, if we are speaking about this word autonomy, this word autonomy not only as implied to learning, as implied to any other aspect for that matter, it's the ability to self-govern. Ability to self-govern, ability to act independently, ability to take charge of their own decisions. Take charge, take responsibility of the decisions they make. So autonomous learning, as in the beginning I said, it is called self-directed learning. It is also called by other synonymous terms called independent learning. It's also called self-guided learning. It is also called self-regulated learning. Okay. So this includes the freedom for learners to manage their own learning, schedule and also set their own pace of learning. They are defining and pursuing their own learning. They are exploring the content that interests them most. Means the teacher is not setting the curriculum in the beginning and the teacher is not telling them this is what is the content to learn. It is the students who are themselves identifying what is the interests they have. So what is the content they have to learn according to their interest. That is the sort of learner autonomy they are speaking about when we come to autonomous learning. Our National Education Policy 2020 is also going into removing these strict lines between the streams, saying the science stream, arts stream, performing arts and all that. They want to remove this demarcation between the different streams or learning areas. So that is what even is happening in autonomous learning. So what is learner autonomy? Learner autonomy is overlapping with the capabilities of collaboration, capabilities of critical thinking, capabilities of not just learning the subject matter, but learning to learn. Once they have the ability of learning to learn anything they want, wherever they want, however they want, then they become lifelong learners. Okay. So learning to learn is a very important element of having learner autonomy. Now, when I speak about autonomous learning, this is the whole thing, whatever discussed being put in a diagrammatic format. This is what the first thing is, the learner identifying the needs, the learner planning the learning, then setting their own goals and objectives. Goals we mean by long-term goals as well as the short-term goals in order to achieve the time management and everything. Then in order to achieve these goals, they are going to select their own resources. The teacher can be a part of the resource. There are other experts in the community who can be a part of the resource, who can, where the learner can decide upon whom to access. We also have e-learning resources. You know how much of digital resources we have. The National Digital Library, which is being created. How much of e-learning resources is again created by the government of India. And then e-learning resources are being developed and made available in the local languages also. If you know, there is an initiative by the government of India where teachers were called for, and then even now anybody is interested, you can also have access. And then NCRT, AICTE, and many bodies have called teachers to create content in local languages. So if we are interested, we can develop content in local languages, and then we can make available. A nominal payment is also given to whoever creates this content. So creation of content and resources in digital form is also being encouraged in our country now. So students, we know, have access to learning resources. So it's for the student to select the resource. Then it's for the student to select the learning strategy. Further, when we go through, I'll be presenting one slide on different learning strategies and what are the type of learning strategies which the students can gain access to, because it depends upon the learning styles of the student. We know there are 3 learning styles. So according to that, their learning style, the student can decide upon what learning strategy they want to select. Then practicing whatever they have learned, then monitoring, practicing and revising, then how to practice and how to revise. There are numerous digital tools which are available for drill and practice. There are numerous computer-aided instruction we know available, and numerous simulation modes which can teach whatever the students have to learn. So these different modes of learning can be gained access by the students in order to practice whatever or revise whatever he has learned. Then the student takes charge of monitoring his own progress. Then assessment and revision again. It is self-assessment and how to assess himself. What are the assessment types which he wants to get himself assessed. The reinforcement, everything can be made available to the students through these digital tools. Okay, so this is what is autonomous learning, which is a cycle. Based on the assessment, whether he wants to again revise his learning needs, whether he has to revise his planning of the learning, or whether he has to revise his goals, whether he can go for higher goals, or whether he has to reduce his short-term goals to according to his capabilities and interests. And again, according to those goals, what are the resources? So this whole cycle again will be planned by the student himself in autonomous learning. Now, what are the characteristics of autonomous learners? Because as teachers, if we know what are the characteristics of autonomous learners, we will know what are the skills which we have to develop in the learner. Now, until now, if we speak about learning skills, if we speak about what are the skills to be developed in the learner, we used to say convergent thinking skills, divergent thinking skills, critical thinking skills, all to be developed in learner by the teacher. Okay, but here autonomous learners, they themselves will develop these skills. So what are the skills the teacher has to develop in students in order to make them autonomous learners? So who are autonomous learners? These characteristics were given by Philip Candy. Many of them have said, I have selected this characteristics given by Philip Candy in 1991. He says autonomous learners are very methodical and disciplined. So once we say autonomy, we say freedom, we think it is an opposite word for discipline. But he says autonomous learners, give autonomy to them, they become very methodical and very disciplined because they are taking charge of achieving the goals they have set for themselves. And they know why they are learning. They know what is the use of that learning. Okay, because of all this, autonomous learners, he says, are very methodical and very disciplined. They are very logical and analytical. I'll not go on speaking about each of these characteristics because they are self-explanatory. I will just list them out. And they, autonomous learners are reflective. They are self-aware. Okay? In psychology, we all speak about developing self-concept, developing self-awareness. So autonomous learners, according to Candy, he says they are self-aware. Self-aware means they know what is their strengths. They also know what is their weakness. Okay? They are self-motivated. They are curious. Because you give them responsibility for learning, they become curious. They are flexible. Because even now, we always, when we speak about e-learning, online learning, we speak about flexibility in planning. So autonomous learners have these characteristics of flexibility. They are interdependent, interpersonally competent. What do we mean by interpersonal competence? Interpersonal competence means the skills of collaborating with each other, skills of sharing with each other. These interpersonal, now if you look at the characteristics of people who are successful in the work world, it is not just or more than people who have high knowledge. It is people who have interpersonal skills or interpersonal competence who are found to be successful in the work world. So this interpersonal competence is a characteristics of autonomous learners. So these interpersonal skills are being developed in their very young age, and these skills are required for them to be successful in their life in future. So autonomous learners are interpersonally competent. They take responsibility and they are persistent. Persistent means because once in our usual conventional method of teaching, we just teach, we live, but students don't persistently pursue the goals. Okay? But here in autonomous learning, until they achieve their goals, they persistently keep trying to achieve it because learning becomes a cycle for them. So autonomous learners are responsible and persistent. They are venturesome and creative. Venturesome means they on themselves try to go in search of the sources of knowledge. They venture into searching for resources. They venture into meeting people who can give them information. Okay, so this is how autonomous learner becomes or are venturesome, and they are also creative. And then they have a very positive self-concept. Means, you know what a positive self-concept is? A positive self-concept where, because positive self-concept, according to our psychological research, has shown that the people with the high self-concept or positive self-concept are successful. Okay, they have good relationship with others, and then they are the ones who can create an ideal society or a euphoric society. So it is the positive self-concept which is a characteristics of a autonomous learner. They are independent and self-sufficient. Okay. They are skilled in seeking and retrieving information. Now, this when we speak about behavior, there is one new terminology which has come in called the information seeking behavior, which numerous experts in education are researching about. And then in the new objectives of education, developing of this behavior among learners is targeted upon. What is this information seeking behavior? Because The world today is changing. The world today is a technological world. The world today is a world which has information in hands for the students. Any type of information is available. What is the right type of information? What is the authentic information? Okay, where to seek for information, authentic information, how to seek for it. This is what is the information seeking behavior which the children or the students of today have to have. Okay, so they should be skilled in seeking information and also retrieving that information. Now, if you can try out this. Ask 2 or 3 students to get some information, give them a new concept and then ask them to get information. You will see that all the 3 of them will not give you equal amount of information. Okay, some of them, and then ask about the experiences. There is an information seeking behavior scale. If you want to just measure out of interest, if you want, you can try it out with some of your students. I've tried it out. When you give them the task of searching for information, all of them do not go about in a similar way to search information. And all of them do not get the same amount of information. The amount of information they get, the, authenticity of information they get. And many of them sometimes say that they did not even get information, though there was a lot of information available. So this skill of seeking and retrieving information is a skill which autonomous learners develop for themselves. Okay. So this is a characteristics of autonomous learner, and this is required for future work world for today. And they are knowledgeable and skilled in learning. They know how to learn. They know, and they have different learning skills. So autonomous learners are knowledgeable about learning, and they are also skilled in learning. They are able to develop and use evaluation criteria. So autonomous learners, we said that have to monitor their own progress. So if they have to monitor their own progress, then they have to evaluate for themselves. If they have to evaluate for themselves, they should know what is the evaluation criteria, and they will develop their own evaluation criteria and adopt these different evaluation criteria to monitor their own progress. Now we know about different learning management systems. These learning management systems are online tools. Okay? Through these learning management systems, individuals can exercise their autonomy and achieve their better learning outcomes. So as teachers, what is the role for us to develop autonomous learning? The role here is creating these the content in, or putting this content in the learning management systems and giving access to students to these learning management systems. So managing of learning need not be done by the teacher. There are systems, applications which are already available to manage everything. So it's for the teacher. And how many of us have really gained the knowledge of these learning management systems, first of all, is a question. So further, if we are speaking about autonomy for learning and all that, it is these, the knowledge of the teacher has to be upgraded. The training of the teachers have to be provided in order to develop e-content, in order to create e-content, in order to put them and make accessible to these learners on these learning management systems, so that we will be able to make learners achieve better learning outcomes. Why learning management systems? Because these learning management systems enable self-directed learning and flexible learning. Okay, these learning, we need not go on in search of tools. If you have used any of the learning management systems, you know there are tools already available in these systems in order to self-assist students, and then also to track the progress of students. Now we are maintaining numerous records in order to maintain or track the progress of students. All this need not be done. Okay, everything will be easily accessible for the parent. You can just collaborate with the parent. You can communicate with the parents or the guardians. And the progress tracking is very easy for the teacher, for the student himself, for the guardians, for the society also, if they have to go through what is the achievement of one student or one educational organization, that is available on these learning management systems. Okay. And these learning management systems provide personalized learning paths. We speak about individualized learning, we speak about personalized learning. All this was possible only with we earlier had different personalized learning. We had programmed learning, which we spoke about. Okay. All these benefits of different designs of learning can be made available by providing with this learning management system, which has the capability of giving different learning paths to every individual student. So this ability of designing personalized learning path can be made use of in these learning management system. It makes it easy for the learners to find or access relevant and up-to-date information. When we use learning management system, up-to-date information can be given. The teachers also can keep on continuously updating the information which has changed, and the learners also can have access to the up-to-date information. Now, when we come to the work world, organizations benefit by encouraging and enabling this learner autonomy. So we should never think that providing learner autonomy will degrade learning or will degrade the education system or will degrade the teachers. It is the greater learning autonomy which will actually benefit the educational organization, which will also benefit our education system and also the learner of a society or a system as a whole. So learner autonomy is of benefit. Now, we told that providing learning autonomy makes learning active. When we speak about learning, we speak about two types of learning, passive learning, active learning. And then we speak about teaching strategies. We say passive teaching strategies, where we say lecturing is a passive teaching strategy, demonstration and all these, where the teachers become active and the students are passive listeners. But this autonomous learning is the students are involved in active learning. So I'll not go in detail with the active learning and all that, what it is, because you already know. But this one part I was very specific about when speaking about active learning here. Active learning, we know, is a student-centered approach where the learners internalize the material through hands-on interactive engagement when it comes to adopting of learning management system. There is one new pedagogy which is researched upon. If you are interested afterwards, you can go in detail, because speaking about reality pedagogy itself can become a session again. What is this, when we're speaking about learning pedagogy, what is this reality pedagogy? This earlier, our teachers also used to use this, but they did not use this term reality pedagogy. Reality pedagogy adopts a strategy where the learner acts as the teacher. I don't know, you must have seen when we were all learners, monitors were selected in the class. And sometimes if the teacher was busy with something, the teacher used to tell the monitors to come prepared with something and then teach. Or if we were in the lab, one student was trained and that student used to teach another group of students. So here what would happen once, I don't know, most of us may have experienced, once the teacher taught us and the same thing we learned and then taught to other students or our classmates, we became so much of experts that we had to prepare for examination. What I used to do was skip whatever I had taught to somebody else, because that retains in us for such a long time, because once we have taught it to someone, that retention is for a longer term or it is permanent retention. So this strategy is being used in reality pedagogy. Okay, that is teaching the material to someone else. Okay, this is again one strategy for active learning, and that is again used in autonomous learning. So giving learner autonomy encourages active role, better knowledge retention, and also higher activeness or engagement in the learning process. And it also develops confidence in students. We always tell students, have confidence in whatever you speak. Okay, have confidence, and then when many a times students know, but they fail in the presentation. Okay, but this confidence automatically comes when they are autonomous learners. And learner autonomy also boosts learner engagement and motivation in the learner. And it also boosts learner satisfaction. This is very much important. I don't know, when we research upon, we try to assess job satisfaction, and then we see how much job satisfaction a teacher has, how much satisfied he is in his task and all that. But many of us have, I don't think, have really tried to see how much a learner is satisfied in his task. Okay, and we also know how much learners, when we have studied job satisfaction, we know how much job satisfaction have really tried to assess learner satisfaction. Once the learner satisfaction is high, why don't we think that the learner performance will be better? Why don't we think that the learner will be more motivated to learn? I think this is one area of, and this active learning and autonomous learning, according to researchers, is shown to boost learner satisfaction. Okay. Now, what are the, I'll roughly just run through what are the skills of autonomous learners. It's a very effective approach in it's not only just developing the skill, reskilling and upskilling. This is what is required for the work world today. Many of the, what do we say, companies which come for campus selection, you might have seen nowadays, they don't want, even our B.Ed teachers are not selected based on the B.Ed marks. Okay. So whichever company or organizations come to the educational institutions today, don't really rely upon what skills they have. They say, we check their ability and aptitude. Once they have the ability and aptitude, we train them, we give them the skills which are required to perform the tasks in our particular job. That is what the companies are doing today. So autonomous learning is about a very effective approach to learning, and some skills are developed. We know how fast the skills of the work world are changing. Earlier, once you have a skill and you have, that skill was sufficient for quite a few number of years. But now in the work world, reskilling and upskilling is very much required, because the skills required to perform tasks are fast upgrading themselves. Okay, so autonomous learner, in order to reskill and upskill, autonomous learning is very effective. Because of its self-directed nature, it poses challenges to students or learners until they are equipped with certain specific skills. Only if they have certain skills, they can become autonomous learners. What are these skills required to is, when we spoke, we just said they should have the ability to set goals. But this ability to identify the goals and set those goals itself is a skill which the learner has to have. Then the second skill which they have to have is to have the knowledge of the learning strategies which will work best for them. There are a set of learning strategies which may be best for me, but maybe not good for some other learner. Okay, so every student has to know which strategy of learning is best for him. Only when he adopts the best learning strategy, he will be able to learn things quite quickly with fast pace. Okay, then the skill of that's what we speak about, self-concept, we speak about self-awareness. So this skill of reflecting on their strengths, reflecting on the challenges they face while learning, and reflecting on the progress they have achieved in learning. So this is also a skill required for autonomous learning. which we have to train the students in these skills. Then collaborating in a team. If you have undergone or adopted any learning content in the learning management system, you know how much scope it provides for collaboration, and how much wide scope it has to develop the objectives which we want to achieve in learners. So collaboration in a team is quite important. So collaborative skills are very important when we speak about autonomous learning skills. Then exceptional time management skills. You know, what is time management? What are the skills required? What all the student has to do if he has to manage skills? Okay, and then he should be very highly organized if he has to become autonomous learners. So these are the main 5 skills required for successful autonomous learning. Identifying and setting the goals, selecting the best strategy for myself. What is the learning strategy I have to adopt? Some strategy which my friend says was best may not be the best for me. Okay, so identifying it, having an insight into these, and then self-awareness about the strengths and progress, self-evaluation, self-progress, collaboration skills, time management skills, and organization skills. These are the skills which we have to focus in on the autonomous learners. Once these skills are developed, then they become effective autonomous learners. Now, all the other skills I will not go in detail. Only this skill, setting the clear identifiable goals. I would like to speak for 1 minute. The research has shown that self-directed learning, they have a tendency to be goal-oriented. Okay? When we speak about goal-orientedness, what is goal-orientedness? It has 2 things: goal directedness and goal maintenance. There is a difference between being goal directed and maintaining the goal. What is goal directedness? It is the ability of the learner to set long-term as well as short-term goals. Okay, so being goal directed means measuring growth against these goals. There are goals. Where I stand now in achieving that goal. How much progress have I done? How much have I grown towards the particular goal? Okay, and then based on these frequent measurements of the growth, I should be able to revise the goals as required. This is what is being goal directed in any task. Then what is goal maintenance? Goal maintenance again is the ability of the learner to set goals that can motivate them or that can manage or engage them to learn. Okay? That is what is maintenance of the goal. The goals which I set should have the capability of motivating me to continue my learning until I achieve the goal. And these goals should keep me engaged in active learning. Okay? And the ability to revise the goals if they are ineffective in accomplishing whatever learning I have. This is what is goal maintenance. So goal-orientedness is having 2 abilities. One being goal-directed and the other goal maintenance. Okay. So this capacity or skill should be brought in the learner. Now, understanding learning strategies was the second skill. I'll not go in detail, but any learning management system or online learning has 3 broad categories of learning strategies: cognitive, metacognitive, and socio-affective. What are these cognitive learning? They deal about the knowledge and skills which we require to complete a task. So cognitive learning is about knowledge and skills required to complete a task. What is metacognitive? Metacognitive learning involves self-reflection. That is, assessing his own challenges, strengths, and opportunities for improvement. Then what is the socio-affective learning? Socio-affective learning involves the strategies which will help them to overcome the management of emotions and stress which they undergo while learning. So they should think of strategies to overcome whatever stress or anxiety they will undergo if they have to learn something, being autonomous learners. Okay? So these are the 3 learning strategies which the child have to adopt. Autonomous learners have to gear up to. So when learners who are quite capable of understanding which learning strategy is helpful for them will achieve better, or the results of such learners who know which learning strategy is most helpful for them will be able to manage time better, learn in a fast pace, learn very effectively. Okay.
Excuse me, madam.
So this was the
Ma'am,
second skill.
excuse me.
It's break time.
It's
Yeah.
break. Oh.
Yeah.
So the next session is at 11:45, ma'am.
Half an hour break, is it?
Yeah, ma'am. Already 5 minutes is over. Now 11:20. So we'll join at 11:45, ma'am. Exact.
Okay. I think a little, I will start with this slide in the second bin and then move over to another new theory which has developed based on these conditions of learning and teaching. For now, I think this session we will end now.